Welcome everyone. It's Craig Fisher here with my co-host Andre Boulais, and we have Danielle Sardi here from Soundhound, and we are talking AI today and how that can improve and make you more effective and efficient with customer experience and candidate experience. We are thrilled to have lovely weather in Texas right now. It's just not usually the case. Andre, how's it going where you are?
You know, it's a bit chillier. It's in the 40s at night, but it's in the 50s during the day. So prime weather to be on the soccer fields all weekend. So we're good to go in Indiana.
Well, I'm a big fan of that. Daniela, how are you?
I'm your next door neighbor, my friend, here in Texas.
That's right.
So it's gorgeous. I can't complain.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and about your business and how you got into it, and fill our audience in.
Sure. Yeah. So I work for a company called Soundhound. I run up the sales team, head of enterprise. And I kind of fell into the industry. I was in real estate, AI, and machine learning prior to this, and kind of fell into this piece of it, which what's not to love, which is why I've been here for over 3 years now. And essentially what we do, my segment, we work with auto, IT, IoT device. I specialize in working with restaurants. So really supporting them through all ordering channels to maximize revenues, decrease bottlenecks, and improve culture where we can.
Right. So Andre and I are fascinated by this concept. We started discovering a few years ago, like everyone else, that the person taking your order at the restaurant in the drive-through line isn't necessarily right there on site and might not actually even be a real person. Is that right?
Sometimes.
I think about that every time. We usually will do one sports night a week. We'll do like a fast food run with all the kids, but it's always like the nice voice there. It's like, hey, this is really cool. But this is also, you think about it, if this is going to be, through AI, it's still a human experience. But if you take 30 seconds of a transaction and times it times millions, think about how much more operationally efficient it makes the company. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it feels very personal. I mean, it feels like you're talking to someone, and it's, there's very little drop off in the conversation feeling of it. And I understand and expect that there are other lines of business that Soundhound is involved in. Can you tell us what some of those are?
Yes. So we started out, I want to say 20 years ago, and really got our footing in the AI world through a music app, which might bring a couple of people back, called Houndify. It was either Shazam or Houndify, right? You were in either or usually. And through kind of perfecting that voice piece of it, talking to machines, and really trying to have a conversation contextually, understanding what you're saying, being able to respond back, and essentially be human-like, but support the human race and allowing them to go in other areas where maybe it's not task related, it's more mission critical. We got start there in music, and then went into auto. So a couple automobiles, Stellantis, Kia, Hyundai, and then IoT and device. So essentially, as an example, Vizio TV is a client of ours. So you think about, how far we've come with having to type in, in the search bar, Thomas the Train. I've got little kids, so it's a lot to type out, right? Instead of just being able to click the button and say, take me to Thomas the Train, this specific episode, or something that you specifically want. My daughter actually uses the voice command. That's pretty funny.
Awesome.
And the AI can actually pick up what she's saying, even though she can't really fully speak the words. But it was able to understand her, and it got us there a lot quicker, which if anyone here has little kids, of the essence before the meltdown cracks in.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver, right? Just shaving those seconds off.
Well, even for the adults, we're not always sure how to write that query, right? It's not right. And that's one of the tricks of using conversational AI in the first place in a chat GPT like situation, right?
Yeah.
You're only as good as your ability to create the question. And that's an art in itself. In recruiting, we're sort of used to that. We write Boolean search strings and odd things like that. But for kids and for a lot of adults, speaking into the phone for Siri or a Google app or a Fire TV stick, any of these things, a Vizio TV remote, changes the game, because the AI is smarter than the people are, because it can scan the entire universe of what's available very quickly versus the back and forth that you go through, even on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, and a lot of people think, like speaking into your iPhone, or, I mean, I'm sure we've all been there where we've had a crass conversation with the car who won't take you to specific directions, or I say call mom and then it gives me directions to Taco Bell or something crazy like that, right? So you just stop using it altogether, or you're just not getting what you want out of it. And I feel like I'd say probably within the last 5 years, we've come so far in the technology space. I mean, with recruiting, and that's the major piece here, right? Businesses aren't in business for today or yesterday. They're in the business for, hey, where am I going to be in 5, 10, 20 years? And how do I get to that point of, either opening up more locations in a restaurant world, right? And then a lot of that is about customer service. So how do I get the right talent in using specific technology to get there that actually works and is friendly and intuitive and that people want to use? That's to me, I've found, as I've upgraded cars, a huge plus for me in being able to have technology that functions the way it's supposed to and makes my life easier as a mom of two.
Well, that's right. And we know what happens when a chip goes out in a car. It's a bad deal.
Yeah.
That's a bad deal. So what other industries are, some of the main users of AI technology, right? Technology industry, of course, in itself, but a few years ago, right, let's call it 10 now, Nike said, well, we're now a technology company. And this was the trend from sort of there on out. We're technology companies. We're not just retailers or manufacturers. We're tech companies. So everybody's a tech company, but industry-wise, sort of where do we go, and kind of what are the hot trends in which industries? So I'm guessing restaurant and hospitality, obviously, because that's your specialty.
Yes. But I mean, I would even take it broader than that. I mean, there are restaurants that call themselves a technology company. They're not like a restaurant, they're a technology company, and they have patents, and they've got it's amazing, this whole world that I knew nothing about. Right. But I'd say overall in any industry today, if you are not taking advantage of technology, and a lot of them are, right? Where before COVID, technology in restaurants, there's cool things happening here and there. And there was the innovators, the outliers, right? But after COVID hit, everybody realized how important off-premise was, and having a drive-through was, or being able, to be able to put in for a mobile pickup and just grab it and go, right? To maximize profits. My CEO has this saying where, if regardless of what industry you're in, it's essentially AI from a guest service perspective is going to be so important, and it's going to become embedded in the business community, just like paying your electricity bill and having Wi-Fi. And if you aren't looking into it now, today, you are unevolving and you're behind already.
No, that's spot on. And to piggyback onto that, Danielle, I think it's you look at a company like a Domino's, right? Domino's, had during the Great Recession, doubled down on technology and say, we're going to build an app. We're going to take this downtime. We're going to capture market share. Now we're going to become a technology company. Now, for the last 12, 15 years, Domino's was one of the first folks where you had an app. We told you every stage where your pizza was. Do you want to text your delivery driver? Do you want to give a message to the cooking crew? My kids love ordering Domino's once in a while so they can send a message to the people who are going to make their pizza. They think it's the coolest thing in the world. But that's an organization that was a restaurant that doubled down on technology, 12 years ago to really see what was coming. But now you're seeing that coming across the way. And the last thing I'll say is we've got a customer of ours that is a large warehouse group, and they used our software to hire a lot of folks effectively with the solutions. but they're so vested in, they've got an AI consultant they've brought in. Their CEO is an AI consultant, look at every aspect of the warehouse, the delivery, the packaging, to make sure that they're staying ahead of all of their competitors. They want to be 3 to 5 years ahead. They don't want to stay kind of stagnant, even though they're very successful with where they are. So I love your future forward vision, because that's what we're seeing right now is the folks that are planning for the future are trying to get a leg up on what's coming.
Well, and from a talent perspective, it's a lot of the conversations I'm having. A lot of people just think customer facing, like, how do I get more people through the drive, which is great, right? But how do you do that? You do that by supporting your in-house staff. You do that by supporting your employees. So a lot of the conversations I'm having is about becoming an employer of choice. And how do I do more with less? Like, how do I empower and give my people superhero powers to do more of mission critical, which is either delighting customers or things that they really want to do, which is more, I like to call it strategic work, but work that moves the needle in a way, right? And so those are a lot of the conversations that I'm having.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think I hear you saying that there is technology that improves employee experience. And we know there is, because 90% of all of our current HR technology claims to have AI embedded in it, right? Whether it's really intelligent or not is a different question. But, I think that embracing technology that improves the employee experience from the pre-employee get-go, right? So what's your customer experience before you buy anything, right, is the equivalent scenario. And so when people are applying to our jobs and they have all of these stop downs and hoops to jump through, and it's not easy, and there's we call this fall off in marketing. It's when people don't complete the request, the application, and there's a better way to do it. And I think people decide, starting at that point, how long that they would want to stay in an organization that is either difficult to start with or doesn't communicate back very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's your first impression.
That's right.
You never get a second chance at a first impression, right? So what do you do to find out, right?
Yeah. So what does a poor candidate experience cost?
A lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. I mean, and a lot of attrition costs the company. You've got training. You've got the staff that put in the hours to find this person, right? Recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hire the wrong person overall, the impact to culture is insane. You hire one bad apple, as my mom would say. One bad apple can ruin lunch, right? And so it could be detrimental to your business if you don't do it right. And there's also the equity position. Like, what do people think of when they think of your brand? Are you tech forward, right? A lot of people want to be an employer of choice, and they want to be known for specific things, or like wanting to have that human touch. And you can't give them the ability to give more of a human touch without the technology piece making their life easier. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, or they don't grasp that concept, because they think technology is taking things away from the human aspect, where the conversations I'm having, and I'm sure you guys are having, is it's actually giving you the ability to enhance the human interaction.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be better humans. That's right.
Yeah. Craig's the author of Hiring Humans, so it's near and dear to his heart.
That's right. I wrote a book about it.
Only I would piggyback on that, Craig, just really quickly, is I actually had the chance to talk about the current and future state of hospitality with a group of global heads of TA for restaurants out of primarily New York City earlier this week. And a little stat, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says if you just have stable hiring in your staffing across all restaurants, you increase top line revenue by 7%. So just the simplicity of, like, if you just have a fully staffed restaurant, so why not use technology to engage with more individuals and just to be fully staffed, but also to have folks ready, knowing it's a high turnover industry, just having, a great group of humans working for you, but also maybe 5 to 10 humans ready to go and come on board in the process. That's a great way. Just that alone, in an industry that has such razor thin margins, you can punch above your weight very easily, no matter if you're a big chain or a local store as well too. So,
yeah. So I think the idea of shortcuts in candidate experience and customer experience, and there's an intersection there, right, where we started to say, all right, Amazon's really, really good at customer experience. How do we apply a layer like that to applying for a job? And Tori Palmer has had a comment: QR codes for menus, so you can change, the menu on the fly, right? And I've got a couple of fun stories about that. But suffice to say, in let's say 2011, I was asked to go to the Taco Bell and Yum Brands headquarters here in Dallas and do an executive call from one of their meeting rooms with their team in Los Angeles. And what we talked about was QR codes for job applications sitting right next to a cash register at a Taco Bell. And I'm not saying I had anything specifically to do with it, but 6 months later, there we were. And there was QR codes even on the wall behind the menu in the drive-through at Taco Bell to apply, we're hiring. And it got better from there, right? And then for a while, QR codes sort of fell out of favor, but thank you, COVID, for bringing them back. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's not specifically AI, but it's a shortcut, and it's a good customer and candidate experience. And I think everyone now knows how to use a QR code, right? I don't think even if you're English as a second language worker in this country, you know how to use a QR code. So that solves a lot of language issues, right? You could use a drop-down menu to say, which language do you prefer? And so we've got this sort of universal language now that is tech-driven. And anyway, the future looks bright to me. And I think I had to go to a football game last night, and there's a check-in system that was overly complicated. You have to, in front of the person that is letting you in the gate, receive your tickets and check in right then. And it created this huge line and backlog. I'm like, just give me the QR code and scan that. That's better, I think.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we outfox ourselves with too much tech.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think what I love seeing is, again, knowing that you started that, you're a key part of that trend, 12, 13 years ago, and Tori's question about the menu as a QR code. Now we're seeing regionally, whether it's, Midwest or in the South or in the East Coast, West Coast, instead of the menu as a QR code, now it's a QR code to build a digital profile and apply. Like, folks are starting to say, okay, we send out a huge volume of to-go orders all of the time. Well, heck, we're always hiring. So why don't we always say, hey, if you know somebody great, if you're interested, scan the QR code. It takes up a little amount of real estate, but it's simple to pull out a phone. And like you said, since COVID, everyone clearly understands how to use that QR code. It crosses barriers. So it's really cool to see that trend.
Well, and there's not a situation with the place that delivers your pizza or Uber or any of your apps where you don't build a profile, right? You have a profile that you're logged into, so you can receive reward points on everything you do. So that's not a barrier, right, to apply to a job for sure. If it's easy, if it's simple, you get into the certain situations where you can't log back into your thing and you have to request a new password. And then that's the sort of thing that trips people up and adds to fall off. So Daniela, there are misconceptions about the use of technology and AI all over the place. Technology doesn't fix everything. AI is not perfect, but usually it's better. What are some of the misconceptions that your customers are seeing and about AI and its uses?
I think I talked about one of the misconceptions was that, we're going to lose the human touch. Oh no.
Right.
And we are speaking with some brands today that felt that way in the beginning and was like, I'm just doing this to be educated on what you're doing. We're probably not going to do business we signed a POC and we're doing amazing things. It's not an out of the box, as some people think. And not all voice AI companies are created the same, right? Mm-hmm. Some people think voice AI is all technology when there's actually humans in the loop, right? Or some people don't want all technology, autonomous AI. They want some human in the loop. So it's a different variety, right? I like to think of Baskin Robbins. There's 31 flavors, right?
Right.
And I think depending on where your biggest biggest concerns are, maybe your biggest and best attributes are, utilizing technology to enhance their ability to continue to improve upon that, whether it's eye contact or you think of line busting. A lot of brands are utilizing line busting today. And how amazing, like usually when somebody's out there, like, okay, they're trying to put my order in and they're like this, and then they'll look up really quick and then they'll go back down. And, where we do have a deployment where it's, hi, how are you? What was that? Okay, let me add this to and it's in there. It's the voice is actually doing it for them. So at the end, they can just continue to see here, and they look down and say, hey, does this order look correct? Great. Well, it was so nice chatting with you today, Daniela.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, the human can jump in,
yes,
right, when needed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about Cnect's automation and application process. You can automate all the upfront responses and fast communication and knockout questions, or as I like to call them, opt-in questions for job seekers. But then you can jump in and send a text message or a video saying, hi, this is great, thanks for applying. Could you answer some questions about this and that? And so the AI isn't just doing everything. It's better enabling humans to jump in the process where it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people won't even get to the point of, another misconception would be it's so hard to implement. Like,
Right.
It's going to take too long. It's right. I don't want to deal with that. And unfortunately, there are, just like you guys know, people in your specific industry that make it as such where it takes 6 months to do all this back and forth, or there's 6 to 8 visits for an engineer on site to get something live. Like, whoa, let's back up here for a second. Again, we're not all created equally. I like to say we're sisters, we're not twins, right? And every company, this is why it's so important to ask the correct questions up front and have those transparent conversations, because it doesn't have to be hard. And it doesn't have to be complicated, as long as you know what your vision is and you're transparent out of the gate on what you're looking for and the work that you're willing to put in up front. I mean, anything with AI is going to take a little bit of work, right? Especially when you're trying to evolve and learn more about what's going on specifically with that company, right? You got to know the menu, or like in my case, the menu, how their customers are ordering. There's not just one way to order a barbecue bacon burger. There's like 15 different ways to order it. So let's make sure we're putting this all in. And so that initial muscle as you come out of implementation is there, but it's not the way that everybody thinks it is. And thankfully we've gotten some, wow, I thought this was going to be a lot harder. It's an evolution is what I like to say, because of the machine learning aspect. I'm sure you guys get the same thing.
Well, we do. Most of the software in our space takes months to implement, and we can have our instance ready for a new employer in 48 hours or less. So it's sometimes 4 hours. People are just blown away. They're like, this can't be real. It's not. Certainly it shouldn't work if it's going to be that easy, but it does. Right. And the automation helps.
Yeah. And I love, Danielle, I love your answer of like, hey, we've got the human element into everything, but you can jump back into the process as well too. We had a tech customer where they had a role that was open for a data reporting analyst, and they had somebody that came out of college, thought that he'd have no problem finding a job, and 3 months into it had applied to hundreds of jobs and hadn't heard back from a single person. And so applied to our customer, was able to get an auto response of a video of the hiring manager saying, hey, thank you so much for applying. We want to speed you through the process. That alone made him say, oh my gosh, I don't know that company that well, but I want to learn all that I can about them. But what was cool is the automated messaging was running, but before he could respond back, the human saw that he had applied, saw the AI kind of match showing, hey, really strong candidate, really great background. He jumped in with a personal message. It was only like 10 seconds, but he used the candidate's first name. When that kind of heard his first name being used, when we saw that come out of the mouth, he's like, I went from thinking I was going to get a job right out of college to having the pits of despair of nobody getting back to me. And the second I heard my name from this person's lips and saw their face, like I was like, I will do anything to work for this company. This is so cool. And this was somebody, he didn't really know anything about the company until applying for it. But that little bit of human interaction mixed with the automation was so powerful. And they hired him, and he's done a great job for them. So it's kind of cool to have that and see that real life human element come out with it.
They've become an employer of choice. It's
Exactly.
so important. And again, a lot of people think that, the technology is going to take away from that human interaction, but I found the opposite, where we are enhancing and augmenting the human interaction by being able to support that specific human or employee in whatever stance they're doing, whether it's drive-through, whether it's phone. I mean, and who picks up the phone to be, hi, I'd like to apply for a job. No, they're not even picking up the phone. They're so busy. It's insane.
Yeah.
Help your people out.
That's right. Empower them, right? Again, be a tool to assist them to be good, right? I mean, again, it's true.
All right. So let's offer some advice to companies interested in launching automation. Andre, you want to start?
I mean, I'd set up a demo with us tomorrow, but no, I'll
set up a demo with Cnect. Is that's your best advice?
Yeah. Now, all kidding aside, I would look
at,
I'd audit your process and see where there's areas for improvement. The easiest one is going to be at the initial application, right? You think about companies that spend, millions, if not billions of dollars on spending for their corporate brand. But then when somebody applies, they're going to sit there for 3 to 4 weeks without hearing something. Make sure you understand you've got an automatic message to go back to them, but make sure that you've got a process to reach out to them, in the first few weeks, because the reality is your competitors are doing this right now. They're using tools like Cnect or other AI solutions to make sure that they can get pole position. So by the time you get around as a giant brand and say, great, it's been 3 weeks, Danielle, we want to bring you in. You're like, I already have an offer to go work for Craig. He got back to me within 3 minutes of applying. He had a video come to me. I've already gone through the process. I've been hired before. You can sit back and say, let's schedule a first round interview in 1 to 2 weeks. So I think the ability to audit what you're doing and to find technology to give you pole position ahead of everybody else in your space is critical right now as we think to look what's ahead.
So, yeah, I like with Soundhound and with Danielle's solution, the human immediately gets the notification that some interaction is needed here, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of intervention in the process. So this order isn't quite clear. Let's step in. And it's a wonderful experience for the customer. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. It's so much faster. And so if you can imagine that you're an employer trying to hire, 500 to 1,000 people a year, what is that time savings worth? I mean, a bunch, right? And the lost opportunities with candidates that just aren't communicated with quickly.
And the key stat you always say, Craig, we show this a lot, is 48% of candidates will not consider a company after a poor candidate experience. So you've done all this work to get them interested. They've done the work to apply, and you're going to eliminate potentially 50% of that pool by a poor candidate experience. Like, you crunch the numbers there. I mean, companies, it makes sense why so much is being invested into candidate engagement and a more human solution with a mix of technology and human interaction.
That's right. All right. Do you have other examples of AI helping companies be more efficient?
I mean, I've got tons of examples. I think one of my favorite, from a culture standpoint, example would be our White Castle deployment. We're in their drive-through, and a quote, public, that everybody can read on our brochures and everything. I love this. It's by Harmony, who's an assistant general manager. She says, Julia is a great asset to the team. Working with Julia helps keep the stress levels down for the drive-through staff, because trying to take an order, cash out an order, and make a drink while still making it your duty to give excellent customer service can be very hard, especially during rush periods. So to me, that says you've done all this work to get this employee. Now you need to keep them happy. You have to empower them, make them feel like their work is meaningful and they're not stressed all the time. And we all know, especially after COVID, how hard it is to find talent and to get good talent to give a good, consistent, keyword, customer service.
That's right.
And keep them happy. I mean, if you guys, oh my gosh, this was like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago now, with Southwest, which is I love this story because they were going down almost bankruptcy, and they had a CEO that left, and they brought on this new CEO, and the one change that he made, the customer is not the person buying the ticket. The customer is my employee. And if my customer, my employee, is happy, my customers buying the ticket are going to be happy. And he completely turned around the culture at Southwest. Their sales skyrocketed through, and he made one simple change. He just made their employees important. He brought technology in to support them and I have an issue here. Great, let's fix that. There's solutions for things that are out there. We're so constantly focused on, customer being the end here, but a lot of people are missing the customer within, which is that employee, which is
That's
so
right. Yeah. So if we think that the external customer is either a B2C customer or a B2B customer, or someone applying to a role at your organization, right? They're all potentially future employees. I mean, we all end up working for the same organizations in one way or another, right?
Yep.
If you think about sort of on a global scale, and I say this, I do some presentations around DFW and around the country, but especially when I'm in my hometown, I can look out at a group of HR and recruiting people, talent acquisition folks, and say, how many of you have done any work with Southwest Airlines, right? And half the room's hands go up, because we've all done work for the same employers over many years, and we're all colleagues in this. So I feel like customers and job candidates, the intersection is growing. And especially in retail situations, right? Very often your customers are end up as your prospects for employees as well.
Yep.
100%.
All right. So what are your some of your, Andre, do you want to tell the drone company story?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I feel like I work out of a co-working facility with like 300 startups out here in Indiana. And one of the cool companies is called Arrive AI. And they've got a really clever drone technology, and they do a lot with delivery of life-saving medical devices on campus. So if you're in a big campus in San Francisco or New York, it might take 30 to 40 minutes to transport something to a key area, or you can do it via 5 to 10 minutes via drone. So just seeing where the AI technology comes into play to actually save lives is, it really speaks that it's not just in restaurant hospitality, it's not just in technology companies, it's not just in, warehouse, it's really healthcare, it's across the board. And I think as folks think about this, AI is not going to be something that's going to, is going to come and replace a bunch of things. It's going to enhance the experience, and again, let the humans do more and be more interactive. And in this case, I love the idea of them being out there saving lives. It's really critical.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think that, I'm fascinated by drone technology in the first place, right? But pilots will tell you that drone technology is going to change the world, already has changed the world. We're seeing that, deliveries and everything else is going to be automated like that. We have Google Maps because of it, basically, right? Automated autonomous vehicles are drones. Let's just call it what it is. And if you ever saw a Google automated vehicle driving around your neighborhood taking video a few years ago, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But now it's your street cleaners. There's all kinds of things that makes the world a better place. And these are fringe things, right? This isn't directly customer experience, but if you're a Google customer and they've got 1,000 subsidiaries or different with Chrome and Maps and you name it, right? They're going to have to break all this up apparently eventually, because they're too successful at it. But there's a customer for each one of those things, and it, in the case of street sweepers and things like that, they're citizens of the city, and the town are the customers. But I think that there has to be a balance between personalized, one-on-one engagement and automation. So when I call in to speak to someone at the water department, I don't want that to be all automated to the point that I can't get through to a person.
Right. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I have this example with Amazon. I don't know if I've ever spoken to someone at Amazon.
It's hard to get there. They don't want you to. But I will say, that is different technology on the front end of there. And again, this is why there's so many forms of technology. Again, we talked about like Chat GPT or being able to ask the right questions up front, right? It's so important.
That's right.
That, I mean, what you described, and believe me, it is very frustrating. I had a call yesterday where you're just like,
get me out of here.
Press this and then put in, I think it was USPS. I can't remember who I called. I had to put in a 30-digit tracking number. And I was like, hold on, let me go back and forth and find it. I could never get it in. Yeah. Only to feel like I wasn't able to get to a customer representative. I'm like, what is going on? So making sure that you ask the right questions up front to evaluate that technology. And AI comes in so many forms and flavors. Like I said, think Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors. There's a lot out there. But there's also good support systems and resources to make sure, hey, what questions should I be asking out there as well?
So the question came up yesterday in a talk I was presenting to a SHRM chapter here locally. Are job candidates okay with automation taking care of some of the, early interview process and other details like, drug screens and assessments and things like that? And I did a survey, I think it was 2017 is one of the early surveys. We had implemented the first chatbot on a corporate enterprise careers site for DXC Technologies. And so I did a survey for job seekers. We asked a few hundred job seekers, are you cool with interacting with some sort of automated bot on the front end of a recruitment process? And overwhelmingly, everyone said yes. But when we implemented this chatbot, almost the first question everyone asked was, speak to a recruiter. Because there weren't very many answers in the universe at that time. And so we had to put an out button to go to a round robin of, almost pagers to recruiters to say, jump into this call. It's a lot easier now. Daniela, would I be right about that?
Yes. Well, and I think too, again, as I mentioned, you've got Siri and you've got all of these different AI chats that we are using. And a lot of people, again, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, it is evolving. You have to evolve. I do miss my BlackBerry, but dang it, they didn't evolve to the extent that we needed them to, right? So
not soon enough. That's right.
Yeah.
Think about it from that standpoint, right? Where we've evolved and there are the right questions to ask, and we are more comfortable utilizing a Siri or whoever it is that we're talking to at the end of the day. So more people are willing to try. I always do try first, and I try a couple times now. And then that's, if I can't get through, that's when I ask for a representative.
Yeah, spot on.
That 0 button's there for a reason, right?
Yep.
And I say button. There's no buttons anymore.
It's the voice command.
It's the voice command.
I think again, you're spot on though, Danielle, as well too. I mean, just going back to the very beginning to circle back where you talked about having small kids, right? My kids are 10, 8, and 6, and when my 6-year-old sees my MacBook, she tries to swipe the screen and she's so frustrated she can't do it because she's already learned I can talk to text on the Alexa remote to watch a show that I want. I can go to Disney Plus. I can do this. I can do all these things. And you think about what's coming as far as that. I think companies that are trying to do things the same way they did business 10 years ago, they're going to get lapped by the companies that invest in kind of that technology and think 5 years ahead. And you're starting to see a lot of those folks really punch above their weight, where technology can be a huge equalizer for a company might not have as much money to spend as a competitor, but can very easily jump into those conversations with the automation. And the last thing I'll jump into as well too is we're seeing a huge shift because over the last 2.5 years have been a lot of folks in talent acquisition that have been impacted by layoffs. Well, all of a sudden they're the candidate and they're like, I've applied to 100 jobs. Only 3 have gotten back to me with an auto message. They're now seeing the pain. So I feel like now that as they land positions, they have more of a voice and a weight in the conversation of the technology their companies use because they know what it's like to feel left behind. So Craig's right. I think everybody I talk to would much rather have an automated response from somebody that is at least a response versus going to a black hole of an applicant tracking system and hearing nothing.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a competitive advantage. The technology that you choose is the future of your brand. Well, not even the future. It's the today. It's what I think about your brand, that experience, right? And the competitive advantage, whether it's hiring the right employee, or if you're looking at bottom line predictions or being able to forecast, because now you can control the variable margin, right? I mean, it's huge, the choices that you make. No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure at all. Hey, we're in Q4. What do you think about for next year, everybody? Come on.
I mean, I got a 1-year-old that takes my screen and is like this, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't have great dexterity, but he knows, and then he'll blah, blah, blah. He can't talk yet, but he tries because my daughter's talking into technology, right? And he's like, I don't want to do what she does.
And he'll never have to take a typing class in his life, though, right?
Yeah. Probably not. Probably
no such
not.
thing.
Yeah. Our son struggles with spelling, but he's like, why should I learn that? I can just talk to text whenever I want for anything. And I was like, honestly, the world he's going to grow up in, like, I don't see spelling being a huge thing, right? You can autocorrect.
Is she breaking up? Are we losing her?
I think she's a little pixelated for a second.
Yeah. We'll see if she comes back. Well, so this has been a fascinating talk. We could probably end on that good note. I think that, bottom line, we are having fun right now in the middle of our AI revolution, and I'm excited for what's to come. We were having that conversation with Allie on the, on LinkedIn earlier.
Yeah.
And, I use ChatGPT every day. And I'm going to throw in my little tip for everyone. I use a thing called AIPRM. I think it's what it's called. And that's prompt response management. And it's a plugin for ChatGPT for your Chrome browser. And by golly, is it great. It's fantastic. Leslie says spelling is no longer what it needs to be. Like cursive. That's right. That's exactly right.
My kids are very sad they don't teach cursive anymore in school. They think it's this awesome, like, nostalgic thing for them. But you're right.
It's a romantic idea.
It is. And Craig, I love your tip as well too. I was talking to one of our customers who owns a mid-sized CPA firm, and he was sharing me, he wears a wearable AI. So it records all of it. He lets everybody know, but it records the conversation, but it has his syntax down. So it writes the recap and action items after every call. So instead of spending 20 minutes putting it all together, within a matter of 60 seconds, he's got it ready to go and can hit send. He can edit it, do the human element of everything, but it is an element that lets him, who has 10 to 12 meetings a day, instantly be able to have those follow-ups ready to go, and he can still ad hoc everything in there. But it's interesting to see the wearables come in. Maybe for round 2, we'll talk later and a different call on the wearables coming into it as well. But there's no saying that AI is not here. It's 100% entrenched into our world. I think the companies that are embracing it, adapting with it, are really going to be able to punch above their weight and get pole position very quickly over the next few years. Welcome back, Danielle.
Thank you. You gotta love them.
All right. So Daniela, thanks for being here with us. Any parting words for our wonderful audience?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just say stay curious. If you are evaluating whether it's voice AI, whether it's whatever technology it is that you're using, again, just remember that it is all about the questions. I did write an article about how do you evaluate voice AI and what are the questions that you should be asking. So there are resources out there to make sure you're doing the right thing. And it's not here for tomorrow. It's today. And if you're not doing today, what are you doing?
That's right.
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Daniela, Andre. It's great to see you both. And thanks to everyone who joined. We will see you again next time, and keep being curious. It's a good call.
Thanks. Great time.
Have a great week.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.